Now I want to show you how to create a user-defined function. And I'm going to do a very simple little example here to show you how to create a user-defined function and show you a couple of gotchas with these things. But there's a lot of power here for the database developer. Anytime that I need to check the condition within a row and report something on it, a user-defined function is the way to go. It's harder to describe than it is to just show you, so I just want to show you the example. Let's say that we're going to do a promotion in all of our bookstores that are carrying our books. And here's the list of the stores, but we can't do this promotion in California for some sort of legal reason. So we're going to create just a little report here that tells us what bookstores we can run this in. And if it's California, it's a no. If it's anywhere else, it's a yes. And so first thing, we're going to create a function that we can use inline in our query to tell us that. So I'll just simply type create function, and I will give my function a name, and I will use DBO, the database owner, to name this, and functions do better when they're completely named this way. And the first thing I'm going to do is create a variable to pass this in. And hold on, and I'll explain that in just a minute. And then I've got to create some instructions about what's going to be passed back from this function, because this function is going to take in some data, read that data, do some sort of action on that data, and then pass some sort of data back. Now, I'll use the begin designation here, block, because everything that happens within a function needs to happen. What this thing's trying to see is syntax as one single line. So we're going to put begin and end that tells it everything in here should be treated as one single command or one single line. And so the first thing we want to do in here is declare a variable that we're going to use inside our function. And I'll create another variable called R, this character, 3 spaces, and this one I'm going to give it a default value of yes. And you'll see why in just a second, because what's going to happen is every time we pass something in, we're going to check to see, and we will pass in to the variable A our data. We want to check to see if, let me get back down here, if at A equals CA, and that's our condition. You have to put the word here, then here, but it's understood, then set at R equal to no, and then return at R, and then we'll pull our end back up there. Now, notice what's happening here. We're saying anytime we run check state, we're going to pass in the at A, and then we're going to return back a character called 3, and then we're going to begin our function. And the function runs, we pass in A, and we declare R as a character 3, set it equal to yes. If A is equal to California, then set R equal to no. If A is not California, don't do anything to R basically, and it'll stay yes, and we just return R back. And so now, when we kind of come down here, let's highlight our entire function, and we execute it, and the command comes back successfully, so our function is out there. And if we go over here and look in functions, we look at scalar valued functions and refresh it, we should see our function. There it is, check state. And so now let's talk about how to use check state. I'm going to scroll down here, and we will do a select. We'll do store name, store underscore name. Then we will use our function. We'll say, well, let's put the state name in there so we can see it. And then we'll call check state, and this is our function. I'm going to do something purposefully here. We're going to pass in that state name for each time, and we're going to pull this from the stores table. Now, when we try to run this, we're going to get an error back, and it's going to say, wait a minute, I don't recognize this. Well, if you remember, we created this with the database owner as part of the qualified name, and so we need to add that back in right here when we call it. Now when we run this, you're going to notice that it's going to give us back a result set, and notice Eric the Red Books, yes, we can do the promotion on that, and I could put a column alias on here of promotion. And now let's run that again. And this time our column name out here, Washington can have the promotion, yes. California, no. California, no. So News and Brews, no, they can't have the promotion. And so you can see that this particular function for every row that is brought back here, just like Eric the Red right here, for this row, when it ran, it passed state into the function we created. It passed Washington into A. Then it compared to A. A was not equal to California, and so We didn't set R equal to no. R was equal to yes, and we returned it back. And we went to the next line. This one was California. A went in, checked it. A is equal to California. Yes, it is. It set R equal to no. It returned it back, put it here, and it went to the next line, and the next line, and the next line. So this little guy right here gets kind of this particular code, which is the function code that we created right here, runs on every row set that's returned in this query. So this gives you a way to loop through in every column on every row. So if you can get that, if that just clicked in your head, you can see the power here, and you are unlimited as to how much you want to do inside this function to a certain extent. But you can write a lot of lines of code here and do some really cool stuff and have this looping through on every single result set row that comes back on your query. That's a user-defined function. It's a lot of power here. Watch this video, type it in, play with it. Very simple example, over and over and over until it makes sense to you. And trust me, the light will come on and you'll find some really cool things to do with these.